Let's talk about our new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. She says the police must stop criminalising offensive comments on social media. The first public comments that the new Home Secretary has made since taking on the job, she says there needs to be a strong line drawn between perfectly legal, fair comment, even if offensive, her words, and illegal actions on the internet. This after 3 of Britain's top police chiefs have called for the Home Secretary to consider changing the law to stop officers unnecessarily policing tweets. They said they want to have a little bit more individual choice and responsibility by the police. But is that really the answer? Because it seems to me they've got discretion right now about whether or not they arrest a shoplifter or someone who's written a hurty tweet, and we know which one they're choosing. Well, let's talk to someone who knows all about this, as someone who's faced charges himself and is a former police officer. He's also founder of Fair Cop, and that's Harry Miller. Good morning to you, Harry.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of what the Home Secretary's had to say? Because on the face of it, that sounds fine, that sounds encouraging. But police chiefs asking for more individual officer discretion strikes me as not necessarily a good thing.
Well, police have always had discretion, as you rightly point out, and they've already got the law. We don't need a change in the law. What we need is for the police officers to understand the law. We need police officers to understand that being offensive is not and never has been an offence, and they have no right whatsoever to start interfering with our rights to speak, our rights to be offensive, just because somebody says, "Oh, I've got a hurty feeling." The law does not need changing. What needs to happen, by the way, I'm very thankful that Shabana Mahmood has sort of clarified this. What needs to happen is police need to start understanding the law and applying the law. And furthermore, there needs to be fines for police officers who disobey the law. In the same way that you and I would be fined if we do 80 in a 70 zone, then when police officers breach our Article 10 rights, when they clearly and repeatedly breach our right to say something which is not against the law, then those officers, individual officers, need fining.
But often, you're often talking about, you know, an individual PC who's been sent by, I mean, they'd be sent by a more senior officer to go and, you know, appear on the doorstep of Alison Pearson, the Telegraph journalist, or your doorstep. They're not just doing it off their own back. So who should we be blaming?
Well, it should be both, actually, because individual officers do have agency. It is the job of an individual officer to serve the Crown, as they swore to do, to the best of their ability. If you've been ordered to go and knock on the door of somebody for saying something, for tweeting something, if I was that officer, I'd be saying, I want that, or I want that as a written order to me before I do anything, because I am not going to breach somebody's Article 10 rights just because you, sir, have told me to do it.
And Article 10 rights enshrine our, you know, our freedom of expression and here's the thing, though, we've had before, you know, we had Home Secretaries before the last, I don't know, we had about 17 of them under the Tories, but our Home Secretary saying very, very, very clearly that, you know, that we shouldn't be arresting people and questioning people for non-crime hate incidents, and they shouldn't be being recorded. That was something that came in under the Tories in 2014 in the College of Policing. They're the people who are training people up and approving people and insisting everyone, you know, signs up to all the DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion nonsense. Now, College of Policing were told this by Home Secretary explicitly. They've just carried on doing it as they choose. We're constantly told by the Home Secretary and by the Prime Minister, you know, we don't have any say over what the police do. It's just about the law. So does the Home Secretary saying this mean anything at all? Because it seems to me police chiefs and the College of Policing are doing whatever the hell they want.
Well, they are entirely unaccountable, and the College of Policing in particular, they treat the whole thing about non-crime hate incidents and hate crime incidents. None of it is based upon evidence. When you ask them, where is the body of evidence, the academic evidence, the literature to support this, they haven't got any. It's simply an article of faith, which they refused to put down. They operate more like the Vatican than they do a rational, reasonable.
Well, that's it. The justification was given to sort of, if you can stop people saying hateful things, you can stop extremist violence along the way. But there's just no evidence for that at all. I would say exactly the opposite. Actually, people should be allowed to express their feelings in words, and then we can judge them for it. We can tackle it. We know who's thinking a certain way. But again, often we're not talking about someone using horrible racist slurs or the like. You know, we are talking about or inciting violence, that's illegal, and quite rightly. We are talking about someone, people being stopped for saying things like trans women are not women, for expressing concern about, immigration or Islamist extremism. I mean, or grooming gangs. I mean, they don't seem to understand what, as you say, the police often don't seem to understand what the law is themselves, and in sort of questioning people, even if people don't end up getting charged, or they don't end up, or they end up going to, like you did, you go to a court and appeal and you win in the end. Lots of people say it's the process that's the punishment.
It is most definitely the process that is the punishment, and also it's so unpredictable as to what the police will take seriously. For instance, in 2022, PC Lindsay Watson, serving officer with Leicestershire Police, he tweeted that he had more, he'd won more gold on the Rangers than I have in my rotting teeth. He said that Nazis, and by the way, I was a chief Nazi, should be culled.
He was a trans-identified man, wasn't he?
Yes, exactly. Since then, he's called for the ethical assassination of people like me, Nazis. Now, when this was put to the Crown Prosecution Service, they said, oh, nothing to see here. This is simply an officer exercising his right to freedom of expression. Yeah. So it all depends on who's saying it. And this is why it's so unpredictable. And this is why we say it is two-tier policing. Because if you're on the left, talking at the right, you can get away with pretty much anything. But if you are leaning towards the right, or leaning towards reality or sex-based or what have you, you say something, you are in trouble. I was recently, only last week, I discovered that I have a crime incident recorded against my name. Not a non-crime incident. I now have a criminal record because I wrote in the Critic magazine that my stalker was a man.
Because he is a man.
He is a man, yes, but the police said that misgendering him was contrary to the Online Safety Act because it was spreading false information and had caused Lindsay Watson serious, non-trivial psychological harm. So now, once again, it's Groundhog Day.
But hold on a minute. So you only found out about this. So you weren't interviewed by the police. You weren't cautioned. You didn't plead guilty. You didn't go to court. You've got a criminal. It's on your record.
I was interviewed last November, I think it was, for the crime of misgendering my stalker. I thought they dropped it, but I put in a subject access request and it came back. And yes, of course, they recorded it. They recorded it as a crime, not a non-crime, a crime for the offence of stalking. So they've switched it so that I am now the stalker. This is how crazy we are.
But am I not right in thinking this police officer lost his job?
Yeah, he did.
Because of his harassment of you, is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, he was not only lost his job, but he was placed on the barred list, which means he can never operate in policing again.
Yeah. Very interesting. And categorically, he is a man. I'm not going to say biological male like a lot of people. You're either a man or a woman. Biological male and man are the same thing. Harry Miller, I mean, you've been through it on both sides. I so appreciate you joining us, Harry Miller. There, lots more coming up, including some more breaking news up next. This is Talk.